Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bella, and while I usually focus on sewing content on my channel, I also am very passionate about interior design. So today I thought I would walk you through some of my favorite sort of techniques to use for the upcoming season, fall, that are not tacky. If you're like me and you absolutely love fall, but you don't want your home to scream homesense, Ray Dunn, happy fall y'all vibes, then this video is for you. Tip number one is to bring in a fall color palette as opposed to actual fall themed items. So this time of year, I really gravitate towards crimsons and rust and mustard and olive tones. Any sort of deep earth tones that you can kind of mimic from what's going on outside and bring those into your home, I think is a really subtle way to just make things feel really cozy, but without being so literal as to have a sign from HomeSense that tells you it's fall. I already love these sort of really rich earth tones in my decor already, but if you like a bit more of a neutral palette, I would focus on just pulling in warmer tones. So I would steer away from grays and lean a little bit more into browns, creams, sand kind of tones, and those can really do wonders in warming up a space really subtly. In keeping with your color palette, I instantly want to update all of my textiles at this time of year. So curtains, bedding, pillows, throw blankets, rugs even. It depends how extreme you want to get with this, but I do tend to alternate my textiles twice a year. So I have things that I like for summer that are just a lot lighter and breezier, and then this time of year I really like incorporating velvets, flannels, things that are a little bit more ornate in pattern even, and again keeping those within your fall color palette. If you start off with a color palette in mind, just pick like 1 to 3 accent colors. That's going to be a really great jump off point for these sort of accents you're going to bring in with textiles, and everything will have a cohesive look. I like to keep my eye out all year round at thrift stores for any sort of seasonal decor I might want to pull out later. It's kind of like a little present to yourself because you forget that you bought it and then you pull it out and you're like, oh my god, I have this beautiful rust colored velvet cushion. This is perfect for right now. Seasonal decor is expensive. And if you opt for switching out your textiles as opposed to going to HomeSense and buying a bunch of decorations, you can really get the most cost per use out of these things because you can use them at any time of year. If you don't buy things that are so obviously seasonal, you can really get a lot of use out of them and enjoy them all year round if you want to, or just switch them twice a year. You can switch them as often as you want. I am not against that. I obsessively switch up my textiles, but this is a great option as well if you do want to invest a little bit more money into new textiles. Then at least you know that it's not something that you feel obligated to take down as soon as November 1st hits. I know for Americans you kind of stretch fall out a little bit longer, but because I live in Canada, by October 31st, Thanksgiving is already long gone for us, and Halloween kind of marks the end of fall for most people, and November 1st is the beginning of the Christmas season. So we have a pretty short window in terms of fall. The season is not very long, so 2 months tops. Doesn't really feel justified to buy something expensive that you're gonna need to put away right away and then haul out Christmas stuff. If you just pick things that can kind of transition really smoothly throughout the seasons, you're gonna get a lot more for what you pay. Now I know walking into HomeSense at this time of year can be very tempting. I'm just as much of a sucker for all of the cheesy themed decor as anyone because I love this time of year. So I'm not saying I haven't bought a fake pumpkin or two in my time. I have a box upstairs. They haven't come out yet, but I do have them. But I think if you want to go for a little bit more of an elevated look, but you still want a little hint of something a bit themey and fun, then I would opt for anything in an organic material as opposed to plastic. I just hate plastic with every fiber of my being, especially in interiors. I don't want plastic in any of my spaces if I can help it. So for this time of year, I really love wood and glass. There's so much beautiful colored glass as well. If I am coming out of HomeSense with one fall themed item, it would be a really beautiful glass pumpkin that suits my color palette and the vibe of my space. There are so many of these out there, so for whatever style you have, I'm sure there is something that screams fall that isn't too obnoxious. So speaking of organic materials, something that I love at this time of year is bringing the pumpkins inside. I don't think that pumpkins are just for outside. I especially love bringing in the little mini pumpkins. If you have a windowsill that you look at all the time, like a kitchen or a bathroom, these little mini pumpkins would be perfect for that. This is one of my favorite ways I've incorporated pumpkins indoors. This was decor for Thanksgiving 2 years ago, and I love the neutrals of this whole palette. I think that when a lot of people think pumpkins, they think they have to be bright orange, and that does not suit most people's interior styles. So get away from the classic pumpkin if that doesn't suit you, and bring in some beautiful white and blush and sage and olive tones inside. For me personally, my eyes just feel so much more at rest when I'm looking at organic things as opposed to something that's pretending to be a pumpkin. So if you want to choose between faux and real, inside, I would still go for real. If you're wanting to keep pumpkins inside for quite a few weeks leading up to sort of the end of the season, I think that opting for the small ones might be a little bit better, just because the skin is a lot harder and there's not as much flush inside. So I don't think there's any chance of those going soft, as opposed to the bigger ones. You might run that risk, but just keep an eye on them. I still think it's worth it to have that look inside. So in keeping with the organic theme inside, I would always opt for fresh or dried florals or foliage as opposed to silks. I have never found an autumnal silk that has been realistic or nice looking, in my opinion. I think they always look really garish and tacky, and unless you have a pretty high budget to spend on silks, even the affordable ones are so expensive. I know that you'll have them forever, but if the look isn't 100% what you want, I don't think it's worth it. I think that real materials are always going to look so much better in your space. So this time of year, I really love grapevine, dried hydrangea. I love tansy, that also dries really well and keeps a bit of its mustard color for a long time. I also love grasses of any kind, as long as they're not shedding seeds inside. I think that that is the one thing to keep in mind when you're trying to choose dried materials to bring in or fresh materials to bring in and then dry them in your house. I think being really particular about the types of things that you bring in and making sure that they're not things that will make a mess or just kind of inconvenience you in any way. I think that the thought of a centerpiece shedding on your dining room table is what stops a lot of people from bringing dried things in, but it really doesn't have to be that way. There's so many things that hold perfectly when they're dry. So now that we have all of our organic matter inside, we need to think about outside too. Do not forget about outside. If you have any sort of outdoor space, I think it is so fun to decorate for fall. I think especially if you have an interior style that doesn't quite work with the way that you want to decorate for fall, if you want to just go all out, I think outside is the place to do that. So whether you are totally minimalist or you want to go completely maximalist crazy outside with your pumpkins like I do, I think there's options for anyone. I think that this is the place that you can use those things that might seem a little bit kitschy inside, but once you put them outside within context of being outdoors, they don't look tacky at all. Again, making sure that you're using real things just in my opinion, I think a real wreath on your door out of grapevine and dried hydrangea and all of those amazing things looks so much better than a bunch of orange silk leaves from Michael's. And in a lot of cases, it's free. You can just wander around your yard or someone else's yard that you know. So many times people with hydrangea bushes are just looking to get rid of them because they trim them back in the fall, and that goes for a lot of other plants as well. So another great tip is to go around really nice neighborhoods on garbage day in the fall time, not quite yet, but like September, October. Scope out these houses with really beautiful gardens, especially if they have like landscaping companies and stuff like that. Then you know that they're going to be trimming things back. And keep your eye out on garbage day, because a lot of that stuff will just be put to the curb. As long as you don't have any shame about picking through people's garbage, then it's all there for you. Moving back inside, the next tip I have is to check out your local thrift stores and antique markets before you go somewhere like HomeSense or Michael's or those classic like decor stores, because a lot of times you can find vintage decor, especially at antique markets. I have found some really, really cute Halloween decor. Now, we're gonna touch on this later. I'm not exactly a Halloween decor kind of person. It just doesn't really suit my personal style. I like to be a lot more autumnal, rustic sort of vibe. But if you like that sort of 40s, 50s look of things that are a little bit more kitschy. Now, there's a difference between kitschy and tacky, in my vocabulary at least. Tacky to me is not good. I don't want to look tacky. But a little bit of kitschiness in almost like a fun, playful, ironic way, I do like that. So I think kind of realizing whatever that line is for you and being able to contrast a little bit of kitschiness with something else that's a bit more elevated, that's gonna kind of make it look like a smarter choice as opposed to just a random tchotchke you got at a thrift store. Another thing that I would keep my eye out for at the thrift store at this time of year is art. I think a lot of people wouldn't think to update their wall art seasonally, but I think this is an amazing idea. I hate when things are remaining too stagnant in my space, and I like to refresh it as often as I possibly can. But of course we want to do that in a sustainable and budget-friendly way, so thrift stores are absolutely amazing for that. And again, with the art, you don't have to be so literal about it. It doesn't have to be a painting of an autumn scene. I mean, I do have one of those, and it is one of my favorite things to pull out at this time of year. It's so beautiful, but that's a pretty simple way to do decor. If you find a beautiful old oil painting at the thrift store and it has those really nice rust and crimson and olive tones in it, but it has nothing to do with fall, well, you still have your color palette, so it's a perfect accent, and it will do the job of just contributing to the overall vibe of a cozy autumnal space without, again, being literal about it, saying it's fall. Okay, I want to talk about candles because this is one of my favorite things for my space, and I want to break you out of the pumpkin spice world of candles. There are some nice pumpkin spice sort of candles out there, I will admit, but they are hard to find. This actual smell of pumpkin and allspice, basically, is what pumpkin spice is amazing. I love those scents together, but it is hard to find a scent with those sort of notes that isn't like over commercialized, if that makes sense. It's hard to find one that feels a little bit elevated and more luxe and a little bit more true to what those scents actually are. So one of my favorite candle companies is Sand and Fog. These candles are always at HomeSense. I don't like to go too overboard because I want to be pretty mindful about what I'm bringing into my space, but I do like to, at the beginning of every fall season, buy one new, maybe two or three, but at least one new fall candle. So this year it is Juniper Berry Sage by Sand and Fog, and this is beautiful. This could almost take you into Christmas. It has that sort of berry, cranberry sort of scent to it, but then the juniper and the sage just give it a little bit more of an elevated feel. There's a little bit more going on in here than just berry. This is amazing. It gives me autumnal vibes without screaming fall, without smelling like you walked into Bath & Body Works. If you do enjoy that pumpkin spice sort of classic fall candle smell, I do like White Pumpkin from Sand and Fog. It's very subtly pumpkin spice. I think they do have one that is called pumpkin spice, and that is like true pumpkin spice. Like, it's a lot for me personally, but I don't really enjoy those sort of like gourmand, like edible kind of scents. So White Pumpkin to me is a little bit of a compromise. It gives me that slight edible scent without being too over the top like pumpkin spice. So speaking of those Bath & Body Works scents, I am not knocking Bath & Body Works. I do enjoy Bath & Body Works at this time of year because they're one of those places that gets ready for fall so early. And of course, I am such a fall enthusiast. I love that. However, the one thing that I hate about Bath & Body Works is their packaging. I hate that it changes so often. I know that that's what a lot of fans of that company really love, is looking forward to seeing what designs they come out with, but I find a lot of times they just don't suit my space. They feel a little juvenile for me personally. If you love them and they work with your space, then have at it. But for me personally, the packaging of a candle has a lot to do with why I purchase it, along with the scent, of course. So if you're also in the same boat as me when it comes to Bath & Body Works, the Leaves candle I am obsessed with. I need to repurchase that this year. I absolutely love that smell for fall, but I was looking at the packaging that they came out with this year and I don't like it. So if I do end up going with a candle that I love the scent of but I don't love the packaging of, what I would do is get like a tinted glass hurricane or something like that to just insert the candle into and burn it in there. I also love the way that candles reflect on glass when you kind of put it in something a bit taller. So that's an amazing look, also very elevated, and again, not so literal because you have this amazing scent, but you're not looking at a Bath & Body Works candle. So if somebody was in your space, they wouldn't necessarily equate the two and they would just think, oh my god, your house just magically smells so amazing. I also have a recent obsession with candlesticks. I love brass candlesticks so much. This one I thrifted recently. It's like a sunflower design, which is also very autumnal. It's made in Italy, which I love. Oh, I still have the price tag on it. Let's take that off. That's definitely not chic. So I love a candle like this. I think it just gives such a romantic, quintessential look, and then you also get a little bit of a statement piece with whatever candlestick you choose. I think colored candles at this time of year can also be a really fun way to incorporate a little accent of your color palette. There's some really tasteful ones out there. If you want that little hint of Halloween, black candles can be really chic if they're done in the right way, and I think that with a candlestick, that's just so like gothic and very intense. I like that look. If you don't like candles but still find fragrance really important, I think that diffusers are a really amazing option, whether that's reed diffusers or like water vapor diffusers. There's also a lot of great options out there to drop essential oils into, so things like clay and lava rocks that hold the scent in. So those can be a really great option just to contribute to that aroma of the space. Okay, I'm about to get controversial. No signs. I personally don't like text in a space, in my space at least. I just don't think that it's necessarily the chicest thing. So if you want a little bit more of an elevated seasonal look, I would stay away from text. But again, if you have that sort of more kitschy, playful style, then I think that text can be cute if it's in sort of a minimal fashion. So simple, maybe one word, a really clean font, and again, always making sure that it suits the space that it's in. So for example, my bedroom that I'm in right now, I like to keep things a little bit more edited in here, and I like things a little bit more luxe and upscale feeling. And so anytime that I've ever tried to incorporate seasonal decor that has text in this room, it's always felt off. Whereas my studio space, that's where I use tons of color and prints and incorporate different styles, and I like to have everything kind of juxtaposing each other. So somewhere like that sort of style might make more sense. It's all about trying these things out, sitting with it and seeing how you feel. And if it doesn't feel right, it's not right. These obviously aren't rules that you need to follow. It's all about finding what works for you and what's gonna make your space feel like home and get you excited for fall. Okay, the last tip that I have, which I slightly touched on earlier, is deciding if you're a Halloween decorator or not. I think this can kind of simplify things, and if you're the sort of person that feels obligation to get super into every season, but maybe Halloween has just never felt like it worked in your space, you might put it up for a week and think, oh my god, I can't wait till this is over, I want to take this down, because there's a lot of tacky Halloween decorations, I would say more than probably any holiday. Then maybe you're not a Halloween decorator. I personally haven't really found any Halloween decor that I resonate with because it just doesn't suit my personal style to begin with, but I don't think it can't be done. I think that there is a way to go about doing Halloween that is still chic, and so I've attached some images of Halloween decor that I like and could see possibly incorporating into a space one day. I think also being specific about where you place your Halloween decor can help you as well. I don't really think it suits a bedroom. A dining room maybe, an entryway maybe, a porch, but not where I sleep. Okay, I think that does it for my fall decor tips that are not tacky. I hope I didn't offend anyone too much, but of course these are just my opinions on what works for me. So I thought I would share if anybody is having a bit of trouble trying to figure out how to communicate their fall enthusiasm without looking too Michael's Halloween aisle. So I hope you enjoyed these tips. If you did, give the video a thumbs up down below and subscribe if you want to see more interior design and seasonal content, because I definitely want to be coming out with more of that in the future. So I will see you back here next time.